Okay, guys, today I'm gonna be reacting to a young woman killed by Rolling Six. A young woman was killed by the Rolling 60s neighborhood crip in the West Adams district. And the YouTube channel is called Time of Death. And let's get to the video.
It is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Chantel Martinez. Martinez was shot and killed on Monday, July 30th, 2007, in the 2500 block of Westview Street in the West Adams neighborhood of LA, according to LA County Coroner records. Lawrence Jones was subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. Defendant is a member of the Rolling 60s. In the morning and afternoon of July 30th, 2007, he argued with his girlfriend, Lakeisha Quinn, a member of the Grandpa Boulevard Crips. Quinn was 6 months pregnant with his child. At one point that morning, on the way back from court where defendant had driven in his gold Jaguar to pay a traffic ticket but had left when the line was too long, Quinn broke defendant's car radio in a struggle. Later, defendant tossed Quinn's belongings outside the apartment where he lived with his grandfather and dragged her outside by her hair. Still later, while she was at a payphone trying to arrange a ride home, he forced her into his Jaguar and drove recklessly, saying that he was going to kill them and that he didn't want the baby or to be around Quinn. Defendant drove to a car stereo store in downtown LA to fix his car radio. When he went inside, he locked the doors with Quinn inside and put on the car alarm. Quinn went to another store and called her close friend Sharday Johnson. She told Johnson that she and the defendant were fighting and he was trying to kill her and asked Johnson to pick her up. Before Johnson could get there, the defendant located Quinn and threatened to tear up the store if she didn't come out. He forced her into his car and drove off. After he left the car stereo store, the defendant drove onto the freeway, opened the car door, and told Quinn to get out. With Quinn still inside the car, he then closed the door and drove into the neighborhood claimed by his gang, the Rolling 60s, where he stopped his car several times to ask passersby to beat Quinn up, all of whom refused. Defendant then drove to a Sprint store in Culver City, at which Quinn used a display phone to call Sharday Johnson again and ask for help. Johnson arrived with victim Chantel Martinez in Martinez's car, accompanied by 2 other women, Brittany and Lakeisha. Outside the store, Johnson confronted defendant. She said that she was tired of defendant abusing Quinn and that Quinn was going to leave with her. Defendant said that Quinn was not leaving. Johnson struck defendant and they began fighting. After they fell to the ground, defendant grabbed Johnson's hair and banged her forehead on the concrete. Eventually, they were pulled apart. Johnson had a knot on her forehead from the fight. Johnson, Quinn, and the other woman got in Martinez's car. Defendant backed up his Jaguar and struck Martinez's car as the woman attempted to drive off. He then followed them briefly, but they lost sight of him. The woman ultimately drove back to Westview Street. Jathia Muhammad received a phone call from defendant, and they argued about his treatment of Quinn. She heard someone else grab the phone and then heard a male voice speaking. On Westview Street, a short cul-de-sac, there were people congregating in the parking lot of the apartment building where Johnson and Muhammad lived. Johnson telephoned defendant and told him to come to Westview Street to fight her male cousin Chris, a West Boulevard crip. Defendant later called back and said that he had spoken to Chris and Chris was not going to get involved. Later, defendant drove onto Westview Street in his Jaguar and stopped at the end of the cul-de-sac. According to Jathia Muhammad, 2 other vehicles, one a dark-colored Avalanche SUV and the other a green Explorer, followed defendant's car. They arrived at the same time and stopped in the middle of the street, double parked. When defendant arrived, Jathia Muhammad walked into the street with several women. Defendant got out of his car and approached them. Muhammad called defendant a punk bitch. According to Muhammad, defendant replied, "On 6-0, it's nothing. I'll fight anybody." Muhammad swung a small 13-inch aluminum baseball bat at defendant. They began to fight, and other women, as many as 8 or 9, joined in against defendant. Quinn saw the passenger from defendant's Jaguar trying to pull defendant away from the woman. Then she saw 2 men walking up and heard shooting. She looked and saw a black male with his arm extended as if shooting, and another black male next to him whom she believed was also shooting. Sharday Johnson saw 1 or 2 black males running from the corner and shooting. In an interview in January 2008, she told LAPD Detective James Yoshida that just before the shooting began, defendant said, "Cuz on 6-0, y'all really gonna let these bitches jump me? This how the West Boulevards get down?" Jathiam Muhammad ran toward the end of the cul-de-sac and was struck by a bullet in the lower back. Lenise Delcourt was shot in the thigh. Adrian Wade, a man who was present, was shot in the leg. Victim Chantel Martinez was shot in the head and died 3 hours later. Later at the scene, police recovered 9 .40 caliber and 3 .22 caliber shell casings. When interviewed by Detective Yoshida by telephone on August 6, 2007, Lenise Delcourt said that the men with defendant were all from 6-0, referring to Rollin 60 Crips. When interviewed about 5 hours after the shooting, Quinn told Detective Yoshida that defendant's friends committed the shooting and that they belonged to the 60 Crips. The defense theory was that defendant, a mere associate of the Rolling 60s and not a member, went to Westview Street alone, not intending to fight but to collect money from Quinn to pay for the car radio she had broken earlier in the day. He had no idea that a shooting might occur and had no gang-related motive to encourage one. Following the trial, the jury convicted defendant Lawrence Jones of the first-degree murder of Chantel Martinez, the attempted premeditated murders of Jathia Muhammad, Lenise Delcourt, and Adrian Wade. In each count, the jury found true the gun and gang allegations. The court sentenced the defendant to a total term of 125 years to life in state prison. Chantel Martinez was 18 years old at the time of death.
Wow, bro. You see that shit, bro? Cause on 6-0, y'all finna let these bitches jump me, bro. That's how the West Boulevards get down. Like, bro. Like, damn, bro. Killing a female, bro, over rage, bro. Over a feeling that you're just gonna feel for like 1 hour or some shit. Then if you would have saw the bitch the next day, you would have not been mad. Like on everything, bro. Like people just be trying to do some shit for weird reasons nowadays.